There's something about the blues, it's just truth and honesty and really feeling and emotion, and you know it when you hear it. It's a very simple kind of music. I mean, it's really only 3 chords. And that's the way it's always been and probably the way it's always going to be. You know, you're transported to some other place or state of mind, and I'm just thinking about those chord patterns and the notes and scales and trying to, you know, make something that sounds nice. And I guess really when I'm doing it alone, I'm trying to please myself, and then hopefully that, if I do it in front of people, pleases them as well. You don't think a lot when you're playing. You're just in that moment. I think psychologists call that the notion of flow. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't know that concept had I not taken a psychology course. So again, that's why general education is so important. But you get into that flow, that groove, you know, in the moment, and it's just so special.
The biggest challenge for me in general education was coming in as a freshman knowing that I wanted to be an English major and knowing exactly what I wanted to do with my life. So for me, taking these classes, I questioned, why do I have to take these classes if I know personally that I'm going to be an English major, I know what I want to do with my life.
I remember back when I was in college and I had to take general education courses, you know, things like philosophy or art history. You know, I took this art history class. I didn't want to take it. We had to memorize so many things. We had to remember, you know, sculptures and who did this work and paintings and who the author was and what style and what era it was. And I thought, you know, I'm never going to use any of this stuff when I'm older. But you know what? Now I see some things and I think back to that class and I can relate to, hey, that style is this. And my wife looks at me like I'm crazy sometimes. But I remember things from 20 or 25 years ago that I was exposed to or learned in my general education courses.
Quite possibly my worst experience during my gen ed courses was my experience during theater or preach. We were actually required to do an act in front of the entire classroom with a group of students. And I, of course, played the part of the woman. It was awkward and socially crippling, but I mean, now that I think about it, it was a growing experience.
This should be a time of exploration. You don't get this opportunity again. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So I hope that even if people, you know coming in, well, I want to end up being this particular profession, that they also enjoy the many other things that we have to offer. You know, I'm not a professional musician, but it's certainly a big part of my life and has influenced the way I do my job as a chancellor. And that is something that, you know, is a sideline, if you will. Pick up those sidelines while you're here. There are so many opportunities.
I really like odd words, which is interesting. A lot of the Shakespeare terms, actually, I like using like different words that they used way back when, but we don't use anymore, such as forsooth, which means definitely, or fun words like scallywag, which is pirate talk, and things like that.
I know I hate public speaking, and so the speech class that we have to take really helped me feel more comfortable talking in front of people and gave me tips on how to do that better, like using note cards and writing outlines and just getting practice in front of everybody and advice from a teacher. So that probably helped because you are going to end up doing public speaking at one point in your life.
Well, the amazing thing about the general education curriculum, you know, we have required classes, and some people don't like requirements. That's human nature. I was very unhappy about being required to take a public speaking class when I was an undergraduate. Matter of fact, I put it off till my senior year, which you're not supposed to do. And you know what? I took that class and I enjoyed it so much that I then went on to get master's and doctoral degrees in speech communication. So really, if they hadn't required me to take that class, I don't know that I would be sitting here talking to you today, because my life would have turned out very differently.
Well, one of my gen ed classes, I am a liberal arts major, and so I'm majoring in English and Spanish. And the one class that I remember taking is the math. And you know, every English major's worst nightmare is the math class, because it's completely opposite. You would think that of what you're supposed to be doing as an English major. But it turned out that I actually enjoyed my math class. I learned more in my math class general algebra than I learned in the math classes I took in high school. I also took one of the appreciation classes I took was dance appreciation, and I'm on the UWL cheer team here. And so actually a lot of the skills that we were learning in there and the demonstrations that we were able to participate in by performing the actual dances we were learning about actually helped me in my cheerleading, and that was a lot of fun. And you don't necessarily think of general education classes as fun because they are required, but I think they can both be required and fun at the same time.
One other thing that I do that's very, very powerful in regards to stress management is I have an activity where I ask students to shout out stressors. So they'll say exams, jobs, school, parents, girlfriends, boyfriends. And then every time they do that, I blow into a balloon. Every time they give me another example, the balloon gets bigger. And it gets bigger. And it gets bigger. And eventually the balloon pops. The little things like that, demonstrations, stories, experiences, activities in class help students stay engaged, but it also helps students retain the information.
Just his stories. He would always tell stories about his wife and his kids, and just stories about his wife like trying to lose weight. And it's like, oh, I don't know if she'd really want you to be telling that to like a bunch of us sitting here. But so I can't really remember any one story, but just that there was a lot that really made us laugh. I think that general educations do prepare us to be suitable employees after graduation and make us more well-rounded, because you never know what you're going to encounter out there. I mean, and in this economy, you do want to have the most experiences you possibly can.
When students complain about taking a gen ed class or having to take a gen ed class, I typically, tell them it really isn't going to be that bad. I promise it won't be that bad. It'll be good for you. A lot of times I use a phrase that my dad always told me when I was little, which was, it'll put hair on your chest, which sometimes gets them at least ha-ha a little bit. But here they are sitting in college and they don't know what to take, and they have to take these things and they have to pick out of this category or that, and you're never going to be able to do that again, ever. And why not take advantage of it? I know that when I have time, which I don't know when that will be, I want to take XYZ classes here. I'm sure that I could sit in the back of, the room for, kind of blend. I'm sure I could blend. And sit in on some history classes because I didn't take enough of that. I feel stupid about those things sometimes. And here, this is all just kind of falling in your lap, and you won't appreciate it, and that I understand that, but, someday you will. And then just to, if that doesn't work, just try to take one thing out of the class a week. One thing. What is one thing that you've learned this week in this class that you didn't know before you took it?
La educación general es una experiencia fantástica.
As a student at UWL, I can honestly say that as you take your general education courses, it's going to be a great experience for you. You're going to get exposed to professors who know their material, who are excited about the content that they're teaching. Ultimately, it's going to improve your educational experience here at the university.
When I shake those hands at graduation, I know that those students have studied such a wide range of subjects with some fantastic professors and outstanding staff working with them. And so you feel really good about the quality of what we've given them. And I think they have that gratitude as well, that when they're shaking my hand, they're saying, thanks, this has been an amazing experience. And I tell them, all you need to do is go out and do your best in the world with what we've given you. And when people say, where'd you go to school? You tell them UW La Crosse.